Imagine you are holding a sword. Your knuckles are white with the effort of your grip. You have trained for years to make your arm strong, your stance immovable, your will unbreakable. Before you stands an opponent, larger and more powerful than any you have faced. He raises his weapon and brings it down upon you with crushing force. You meet it with all your strength, your rigid block a testament to your discipline. And in that perfect, brutal moment, you hear the unmistakable sound of your own arm breaking. This is not a failure of strength, but a failure of principle. Centuries ago, on the battlefields and in the dojos of Japan, the wisest warriors understood a profound truth. The hardest stone is shattered by the torrent, while the humble reed bends, lets the water pass over it, and remains unbroken, rooted. They called this principle Ju no Ri, the principle of softness, the logic of yielding. And in its quiet wisdom lies a form of strength so resilient, so adaptable, that no force in this world can truly overcome it. This is the way of the reed. Chapter 1. The Rigid Blade. To understand the power of yielding, we must first witness the futility of unyielding force. In the early 17th century, Miyamoto Musashi, perhaps the most renowned swordsman in history, penned his immortal Dokudo, The Path of Aloneness. Its first precept is deceptively simple. Accept everything just the way it is. For the rigid mind, this is impossible. The rigid mind has a plan, an identity, a demanded outcome. It sees the world as an opponent to be dominated, a lock to be broken by sheer force of will. This was the path of the young warrior, and it is the path of the modern struggler. Consider the story of a man we will call Kenji. Kenji was a master of rigid strength. In his corporate life, he was a strategist of impeccable logic, a planner who left nothing to chance. His identity was his relentless forward momentum. When a competitor launched a surprise product, undermining Kenji's years of work, his response was pure rigidity. He doubled down. He marshaled his resources for a direct, forceful counterattack. He worked longer hours, demanded more from his team, and tightened his grip on a plan that the world had already rendered obsolete. He was the stone in the torrent, and he could feel the cracks beginning to form. The stress was a constant vibration in his hands. His team, once loyal, began to withdraw from his unyielding intensity. The more force he applied, the more resistance he met, until he stood alone, exhausted, on the verge of breaking. His spirit, that hardened blade, was failing not because it was weak, but because it did not know how to be anything but hard. Chapter 2. Ju no Ri, the logic of the reed. The principle that could have saved Kenji was not born in a boardroom, but in the chaos of close combat. Jujutsu, the gentle art, is built upon Ju no Ri. It is the martial realization that opposing a superior force directly is suicide. Instead, one must blend with the attack, redirect its energy, and use the opponent's own power to destabilize him. The samurai understood that true strategy was not about meeting force with force, but about perceiving the flow of force and moving within it. This is the wisdom of the bamboo grove in a storm. The mighty oak, with its rigid trunk, may be uprooted. The bamboo, however, bends almost to the ground. It yields completely to the wind's aggression. It does not resist, it accepts. And when the storm passes, it springs back, upright, its roots deep, having dissipated the energy that would have destroyed a harder thing. The philosopher-warrior Yagyu Munenori, a master of the sword and of strategy, spoke of mushin, no mind. This is not emptiness, but a state of fluid awareness, free from the rigidity of fixed thought, anger, or fear. In mushin, the warrior does not decide to yield. Yielding is the natural, instantaneous response to the incoming force. The mind, like the body of the reed, does not break because it does not fight the breaking. It transforms the attack into an opportunity for repositioning. For Kenji, trapped in his storm, this would mean a terrifying surrender. It would require him to let go of his plan, his identity as the unstoppable force, and to simply observe the flow of events without immediately opposing them. Chapter 3. The Art of Conscious Yielding. Yielding, in this philosophy, is not defeatism. It is not passive acceptance of a lesser outcome. It is a deliberate, strategic retreat of the ego to preserve the integrity of the whole self. The first movement is one of perception. You must become still enough to feel the direction of the pressure. For Kenji, this meant a painful cessation of activity. He had to step back from the frantic countermeasures and truly see the landscape. The competitor's product was successful. The market had shifted. His own plan was now a relic. Seeing this, truly accepting it as Musashi advised, was the first bend of the reed. The second movement is the release of internal resistance. This is the true battle. The ego screams to stand firm, to defend its territory, to prove its strength. To yield feels like death to the rigid identity. Kenji had to release his grip on his vision of victory. He had to allow the feeling of failure to wash over him without being swept away by it. He practiced a form of zanshin, relaxed awareness, observing his own panic without becoming it. The final movement is the strategic pivot. Having yielded to the force, having absorbed its reality, you now find yourself in a new position. The opponent's energy is spent, or you are now beside the point of impact. Here, the reed springs back. For Kenji, this was not about launching a newer, better product overnight. It was about a subtle, profound shift. He gathered his team and said, "We misjudged. Let us understand what they did right." This act of yielding, of acknowledging the competitor's strength, disarmed the tension within his team. It created space, and in that space, a smaller, more adaptable idea began to grow, not as a direct counterattack, but as something different, emerging from the side of the main force. Chapter 4. Cultivating the Resilient Mind. The bamboo does not bend because it chooses to in the moment of the storm. It bends because its entire structure is cultivated for flexibility. Its strength is in its hollow segments and fibrous sinew. Similarly, the resilient mind is not built in crisis. It is built in the quiet days through disciplined practice. This is the path of the reed. First, one must practice acceptance as a daily meditation. Each morning, sit with the simple, unchangeable facts of your existence. The weather, a delay, a minor irritation. Do not mentally argue with them. Observe them, acknowledge them, and let your initial resistance pass like a wave through you. This trains the mind to receive impact without shattering. Second, develop peripheral vision. The rigid mind stares fixedly at the goal, becoming blind to shifting conditions. The adaptable mind practices soft focus. In your work and life, regularly pull your attention away from the target and survey the entire field. What small changes are happening at the edges? This is the strategy of the master Go player, thinking 10 moves ahead in a flowing, ever-changing landscape. Finally, institute small, non-negotiable acts of suppleness. If your routine is rigid, deliberately break it in a minor way. Take a different path. Use your non-dominant hand for a simple task. Read an opinion that opposes your own. These are like joint exercises for the spirit, reminding you that you can bend, adapt, and still remain whole. Kenji began this cultivation. He started his days not with action plans, but with 5 minutes of silence, accepting the day's potential chaos. He mandated that his team's meetings begin not with updates, but with observations of what was changing in their industry. He was no longer forging a single blade, but growing a grove of bamboo, each stem capable of weathering the storm. Chapter 5. Unbreakable Return. The ultimate purpose of yielding is not to remain bowed, but to return with greater effect. This is the final, powerful truth of Ju-no-ri. When you yield, you absorb the energy of the attack. That energy does not vanish. It is stored within your understanding, your repositioning, your renewed perspective. The return is not a violent recoil of hatred. It is the calm, inevitable reassertion of your presence, now wiser and better placed. The great swordsman, when pulled off balance by his opponent, does not struggle to regain his original stance. He completes the motion, turning the fall into a roll, and rises already cutting from a new, unexpected angle. His power is now combined with the momentum his opponent gave him. For Kenji, the return took months. The smaller, adaptable idea that grew in the space of his yielding slowly gained traction. It solved a problem his competitor's product did not address. It was not born from a place of defiance, but from a place of clear, unburdened observation. When they launched it, it was not seen as a desperate counterpunch, but as an innovative step forward. His team, having been part of the flexible process, executed it with a unity that brute force could never have commanded. Kenji had not won by being harder. He had succeeded by being unconquerably soft. He had learned that the mind, like the reed, does not resist the wind and the water. It uses them to become stronger. its roots driven deeper by every storm it endures. The world admires the unyielding stone, the unmovable mountain, the unbending blade. These are symbols of a certain kind of strength, but they are also monuments to a future ruin. The storm, or the river, or the simple, relentless passage of time will have its way with them. The true practitioner of strategy, the modern warrior navigating a chaotic life, seeks a different kind of monument, one that is alive. Look to the grove of bamboo after the typhoon has passed. Where everything rigid lies shattered, the grove stands, a forest of green resilience, each stem whispering in the newfound calm. It sways because it is alive. It yields because it intends to endure. Its strength is not in opposition, but in a profound, intelligent harmony with the forces of the world. This is the silent path. This is the way of the reed. Walk it, and you will find that you cannot be broken, for you have learned the art of bending, and in that bend, you have discovered the secret of being truly, unshakably strong. To walk the path of the reed is to move through a world of rigid demands and unexpected blows with a different kind of grace. You learn that resilience is not about the hardness of your exterior, but the intelligent flexibility of your spirit. You learn to perceive pressure without panic, to yield strategically instead of opposing blindly, and to store the energy of every setback to fuel your return. This is the quiet discipline of the unbreakable, the application of ancient martial principle to the battles of modern life. Now, we turn this reflection to you. Think of a current challenge, a pressure you feel resisting against. What would it mean in this specific instance to practice conscious yielding, to bend like the reed, not to break, but to understand the force and reposition yourself within it? Share your thought in the comments below. Your insight may become the seed of another's resilience. If this philosophy has found a place in your mind, if you see the value in cultivating this kind of strength, then consider joining this ongoing conversation. Your subscription is a silent nod, an agreement to continue exploring these depths together. For now, from this quiet corner of the dojo, I thank you. Thank you for your time, your attention, and for walking this path this far.